Live in Atlantic City, it is Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi, Donnie, right side with you up until 1 p.m. kickoff. We are live tonight at 7 p.m. as well because we do it for the people. That's what we got to do. We got to be there. Sell me something time. Sell me something yesterday, red hot.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker, I was told the easiest one was the only loser.
Yeah.
Najee Harris for 100-plus, better than 4-1.
Beautiful.
No problem. Najee Harris over 2.5 receiving yards, second play of the game. No problem. So, pressure's on. I mean, people are saying this is the best bet segment here.
It should be, right? Well, I'm going to go out to New Orleans. We talk about must-win situation for both Atlanta and New Orleans right now. We talked about the instability in terms of the passing attack. Taylor Heineke at the helm. Drake London needs to get involved in terms of this matchup. 46.5. He's been a little bit inconsistent, hot and cold. 1 week it's Kyle Pitts. The next week it's Drake London. I think he breaks out in a big way. I altered him up to 60-plus, I believe, plus 138. Over 46.5, guys, I think is live today.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just got the latest there. Taylor Heineke warming up on the field, questionable here with an ankle injury. We'll see if that plays into the situation. But I like it. You're buying low in a situation where, again, we talk about the New Orleans Saints winning that football game, which means what again? You might be down in the fourth quarter, you get the extra looks there for wide receiver. It's a pretty good look for me on that one too, K-Dub.
Yeah, I just wish it was Shaheed, but I guess he's in other places. I think he should have just used him in every spot.
See, now, you see, he's trying. You see how he does it?
Yeah.
See, some might say you're the igniter.
Yep.
There's a small flame, and he just throws gasoline right at it.
Yeah.
As we welcome in our radio audience.
Wow.
Pro Football Today, Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside, Kevin Walsh, breaking down Week 18 of the NFL action right here from live from the Ocean Resorts and Casino.
In 2024. Talk to me, Donnie. What do you got here?
Yeah, by the way, you started the segment off saying, like, this should be our best bet segment. How about any pick I give is a best bet right now? So we'll just keep on rolling it through. Complete sweep the board yesterday, kept the people afloat. We're digging in right now. Oh, I mean, everything is looking great, which includes Nick Mullins today. Now, yesterday I gave you a plus 420 price with cashed in. Look, I can't go that high today, plus 254. It's Nick Mullins, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Why? Because the only 2 games that he started this year, he absolutely went berserk in both of those football games. He's going to throw touchdowns, he's going to throw for yards, he's going to throw for interceptions, and we're going to profit today, boys. We're going to profit.
Now, how does that fit the criteria of sell me something?
What, a guy that stinks is going to get plus 254
He's
bet?
done it in multiple games.
The guy also might be benched at the half when Justin Jefferson fights him for not getting him any yardage in the first half. So we have that to worry about tonight.
This is where you really are the best.
Why?
You
like
just
Nick Mullins doesn't qualify.
Nick Mullins is too good for something. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, no, so it's brand recognition. So it's just the name.
I mean, let's go with the number one draft pick wide receiver to get like 40 yards.
Sell me something. The criteria is an ugly bet that has no shot potentially on paper.
You just took the number one wide receiver on a red-hot Falcons team. I mean, they're not red-hot.
They're not red-hot. Who he played for, Drake London, right? Nobody knows.
USC.
That's a good point. I mean, look, I have no problem with you taking shots at Donnie's pick. I mean, he's just climbing the ladder on the Vikings all week long. I'm surprised he didn't use Justin Jefferson.
It's true. And alt 50 yards or more, because, hey, it's going to be tough for him to be in the spotlight.
Yesterday he was giving out T.J. Watt minus 225. People were impressed.
He was on with that. 2 sacks. Might not play the rest of the playoffs if they get in, but that's besides the point.
I have a plus 410 number, and I'm going to
explain this.
I'm going to now be told that this doesn't qualify.
All right, let me hear.
Let's go.
Niners, Rams, each team for a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. What's wrong?
I needed a play.
Last time they played, it was 30-23. So, and I understand the game mattered back then, but still, I mean, these offenses can move the football.
Right.
So, I mean, if I walk into the used car lot, are you selling me that? That should be right at the front window.
It's plus 410. So you're telling me I'm walking into the Hammer play?
They cashed you out already.
That'd be nice if they could.
But by the way, if you were looking at that plus 410, so in Lisi terminology, no starters are playing. Like it even more.
Right.
Well,
that's a sell me something.
I didn't. Yeah. No. If it was Purdy, Stafford, Kyron, and McCaffrey,
minus 410.
No way.
That was part of. In all seriousness, what would this number be in a healthy Niners Rams game? You would
plus 100.
Right.
Honestly.
Stafford has thrown a touchdown in all but one game. Purdy in all but 2. McCaffrey scores every game. Kyron Williams now scores every single game. So, and I understand none of those guys are going to be playing today, But McVay and Shanahan are still out there, right? And I think this football can still be moved here today, and I think at plus 410 it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
I will throw this out there. The incentive stuff is big for everybody today. A lot of people like betting incentive props. I am only betting one. I think it is everything needs to line up for an incentive prop to matter for me. Like yesterday, I bet Devin Singletary got hooked. It is what it is. At no point was it relevant that he needed 165 yards for money, right? I'm not betting Dalton Schultz props for, he needs 110. Who cares? They're trying to go and make the playoffs. That's not what this is about. There's also this Austin Eckler, and this is hanging out there for 110 rushing and receiving yards is plus 500 because that today will cash an incentive for him. But the Chargers are bad, and I don't know if the Chargers are going to do what they can. Here's what I thought was worthwhile. Josh Reynolds needs one touchdown for a $250,000 bonus and is plus 330 for an anytime touchdown score. Dan Campbell today is deciding to play his starters. But deep somewhere in you know the game doesn't really matter if you are Detroit. The Lions are a winning team. Campbell is a player's coach first. I absolutely think there is a world that team inside the 5 is running Josh Reynolds touchdown plays today at plus 330. That is the lone incentive-driven bet that I am on today.
No, it's a good look. I mean, I have no problem with that. Plus 330 is a great look, and Goff is playing, and Goff has pretty good relationship with Josh Reynolds dating back to their days with the L.A. Rams. So, I mean, I like to look at plus 330. Donnie's look in regards to Justin Jefferson. They're not really playing for anything but to get 1,000 yards to cash some money. Why not? It's been a terrible season. He's been injury-plagued. Now he has an opportunity with a veteran quarterback to ball out. That's a pretty good look as well. Maybe you parlay them together.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Lions actually do today late, because let's just say the Dallas Cowboys again are hammering the Washington Commanders. You would still like that even more because he's not Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's like, hey, but look, we tried 3 quarters. I can't risk you for the playoffs. You can say, like, hey, well, we can't bench all our starters. He has to play. That's the guy that has to play and can score late. And then you would just be dialing up just his number in the fourth quarter.
I was like, ooh, like, do I need an anytime first half touchdown score? No, nope. Right? Like that, it might be better off in the fourth quarter. The incentive stuff is a big part of what we do, or is a big part of sports betting for people in this week. The thing is, the books are well aware, and it's reflected in plenty of these numbers. We'll bring it up where it's relevant. I'm sure many of you have been able to find and locate where all of that stuff is. But for me, Josh Reynolds at plus 330 for an anytime touchdown was a nice, straightforward opportunity on today's slate. We are going to continue to break down today's action. Up next, we go to the NFC East. Is Dallas in any trouble? We'll see next.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active, and let's get the best of the numbers here. So
I believe if Michigan in this ballgame can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ballgame.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms today. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
That tells you how good this league is. Jeff, you're mine. Big 12. Who's the team to beat?
Well, it's always Kansas. I don't care who comes in the league. And I love Kelvin Sampson, what he's done at Houston. I don't care. So Marquette, to me, is the best backcourt in the country. Tyler Kolek's the best point guard. Cam Jones is an elite scorer who just plays with such a good pace, and he's so smart.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. The NFC East is up for grabs, though the idea is the result of it is not really in doubt. In fact, Dallas needing just a win with a loss may end up fine because a lot of people now feel the Eagles are going to be in a difficult position here today against the New York Giants. Let's start with the Cowboys game because if they win, that's all that matters. They will be the number 2 seed in the NFC. A scenario created by the Eagles last week completely collapsing at home against the Arizona Cardinals with this defense that is completely lifeless. And we'll handle this when we get to the Eagles. I do think it's a little unfair that people keep dragging the offense down with the defense. I know the offense has not been perfect, but it is hardly the issue for this football team. But for Dallas, they have their issues. There are moments where we look at the Cowboys and go, oh, man, listen, they can't beat a great team. The Detroit game would have only elevated the reality of that, but they ended up escaping with that victory. And now all they need to do is win as a 13-point favorite in Washington. And the Cowboys are incredible bullies. I think there is no value on Dallas at minus 13, but I've already bet the Commanders against them once this season. Once is enough.
Well, that was the Thanksgiving Day game, and Dallas completely dominated on both sides of the ball. Sam Howell on that offense completely inconsistent, turnover prone. That was the game bland with the pick 6. They've lost 9 of the last 10, 7 straight. They lost last week, Washington 27-10, catching double digits against San Francisco, and all signs point to the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about it earlier in regards to the same exact spread, 13.5, where we saw Dallas in Arlington, now on the road. Dallas needs the game. I think there's no doubt they win this ball game, but I'll just say this. I'm going to take the points with the Washington Commanders. Why? Because it potentially is Ron Rivera's. It is Ron Rivera's last game as head coach. I think they do step up to some capacity. It's a rivalry game. Dallas is inconsistent in terms of road spots, stepping up, being that dominant force. They're a much better bully at home than they are on the road. I'm taking the Commanders. I think they're in this game from start to finish. Wouldn't shock me if we get over the total, and I like all of the passing props in this ball game, guys.
I think this team quit, though, Joe, to be honest. And if the saving grace is going to be let's play for Ron Rivera, they probably will lay down and get beat by 60 to make sure he's not going to be their head coach again next year. It's been just a complete disconnect in that franchise with Ron Rivera as the head coach. But, again, if we're looking at step-up scenarios, which we brought up last week, like the San Francisco 49ers double-digit favorites on the road, how much do they win by? 17 points. Why? Because that's what the Washington Commanders give up at home. Miami and Dallas, they played last 45-15 and 45-10. They just don't play well against teams that are above average, and the Dallas Cowboys are. The one thing laughing at me yesterday, hey, minus 225 to get a T.J. Watt sack. I'd pay up to minus 500 today for a Micah Parsons sack. I think he's going to go crazy against that offense. It's one of those things where I look at where what are you going to get out of your quarterback? I don't even know if he's going to be upright for most of the game here. And we're talking about Sam Howell, the quarterback for the Washington Commanders. You would think I've been trying to play this also. Hey, look, you still have an offensive coordinator that maybe wants to be the head coach of that football team. You might be looking for yourself, as Eric Bieniemy going there's a lot of other jobs out here. Even if this one's open, I don't want it here. This team and this franchise is really bad at this point. I think there's the capability that if you're betting this game for me, I do think Washington might actually be competitive, Joe, in the first half, which is the direct concept of what you're supposed to bet against. Like, oh, no, just take Washington in the first, or to fade them in the first half because they'll be dead on arrival. I think as this game goes along, that lead gets stretched for the Dallas Cowboys, and it turns into a party. Keep in mind also, the Commanders sent out a tweet this week. Hey, guys, get here early. It's sold out. That's not because the Commanders fans are going to be there. This is a Dallas home game in Washington today.
Yeah, last year, Dallas, with a win, would have kept their divisional hopes alive, and they got smashed by Sam Howell in Washington. I think that is relevant, but it is not the most relevant thing because realistically, Dallas was in the scenario that Philly is in today.
Correct.
It is not a 1-to-1 situation. The Eagles were the team who just needed to control their own destiny. Dallas needed help that they never really thought they were going to get. The thing I worry even about with Washington, though, Donnie, was last week there, hey, let's try our absolute best. And it was a 3-point game at half, almost tied going into the break against the Niners, and they still got pulled away from. Look, I don't think there is any value on Dallas minus 13. This is, 1.5 point less than what the Niners laid, and we know the books think the Niners are 4-5 points truly better than the Cowboys. But I hope you win the bet. I don't care. I don't need today to do anything with this Washington team. They've lost 7 in a row. They tried to bench Howell, and then Brissett was injured in a practice. It is such a mess, and it is so. The one thing that is a little interesting is the fact that it has now been basically confirmed that Ron Rivera will be fired at the end of this game. What is the energy heading into this year? Do these players say, well, good, thank goodness, he wasted our whole season? Because there's a very real possibility, due to age and opportunity, that Ron Rivera is coaching his last ever game as an NFL head coach.
No, absolutely. He's regressed since he went to the Super Bowl with Cam Newton and Carolina, especially when you just look at the defensive perspective. That's where he got his MO when they won the division, when he overcame cancer, and they limped to a 7-9 record in terms of Chase Young's rookie season. Del Rio and the defense has just regressed ever since that point. Now, I'll just say this. I agree 100% with what you and Donnie said in regards to just being dead and buried, but it is a rivalry game. I think if there's one rivalry where you could get these players up for, it is Cowboys-Commanders because of just it's Dallas, right? You want to go out. It is the last regular season game. 13.5 in terms of an NFL matchup. You're playing at home. You want to spot me 2 tutties to start the game. I'll take a shot. I think both offenses will move the football. And again, 13. Dallas has not been a dominant road team throughout the regular season and has lost games outright. So you want to give me 2 scores at home? I'll take a shot in terms of the farewell game.
How many more rushing touchdowns do you need from Tony Pollard?
3. You want to bet him today for 3+ so I can win my season-long bet?
How about we bet him for 1, he gets 2, and then he's like, I got close.
Bet him for 2.
Because, you can really get after that Washington Commanders defense on the ground, though.
With Pollard. But he's minus 160 again to score today. Like, the guy is allergic to the end zone, and he is still booked so strong because every single thing suggests he'll find the end zone.
I'm going to have to dip in for him.
Eagles-Giants. So Philadelphia is a 4.5, 5-point favorite in this game. The total checks in as we continue to climb, which is nice to see. As someone I did bet over 41.5. This is now 42.5, 43. Look, the thought for me is I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing 0 starters as much as I know you want them to, Donnie.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put Hurts and A.J. Brown out there on the field, then you know what? Let those 2 call the plays, and they can run deep shots every single play that they want. I don't care what version of the Eagles' defense is out there. It is atrocious and tragic, and Tyrod Taylor should absolutely have his way in that game, even if the weather conditions are not ideal. But this is, again, also a 41.5 number, which I just don't think is a justifiable number in a game that the Philadelphia Eagles are playing in.
No, I think the game does go over. You look at 31 points by Philadelphia, and the way that Tyrod Taylor hit Steve Slayton in terms of that ball game, they put up a lot of points against Steve Slate. I'm thinking West Virginia.
I do it all the time. Don't worry.
Darius Slayton, right? So, in regards to that, here's the problem, though, and you blame me for the Philadelphia demise, right? I'll take somewhat of a responsibility.
I was never going to mention that here. I didn't want to bring that to the
No, we'll bring it to the forefront. I take accountability. I altered the minus the 5.5 against San Francisco. I'm on them still at plus 550 to win the NFC. I think once they get in, they do have a little bit more juice. In this ball game, the problem that I have is the Giants did cover that number, lost a heartbreaker. They went toe-to-toe with Philly in terms of that game a couple weeks ago, covered the 13.5. I think Philly moves the football at will on them. The way the Rams move the football, they win this ball game by 7+.
Yeah, we probably need more time on this game, but let me just say this. If you guys want to have some fun, tune in at 7 p.m. tonight. If the Philadelphia Eagles play their starters for an extended period of time in MetLife, we might not even have enough time to get to the Dolphins-Bills.
We will hit a break, but we will get Donnie's take on Eagles-Giants as well as the meaningless games today, including Jets-Patriots next right here.
Got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active and let's get the best of the numbers here. So
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
That tells you how good this league is. Jeff, you're mine. Big 12. Who's the team to beat?
Well, it's always Kansas. I don't care who comes in the league. And I love Kelvin Sampson, what he's done at Houston. I don't care. So Marquette, to me, is the best backcourt in the country. Tyler Kolek's the best point guard. Cam Jones is an elite scorer who just plays with such a good pace, and he's so smart.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, we're right back here on SportsGrid. I don't know. It's little things that irk me. Ian Rappaport, NFL Network. I mean, he does a great job. Fields would be a legend for knocking the Packers out. No, he wouldn't be a legend. Hell up. Man, hit the bricks.
Oh, that's a good one, though.
I mean,
a legend.
Like that's
You're going to carry him in the streets.
It's so embarrassing, honestly. Like I would never. Like if I'm the Bears, I call him like you erase
so
that tweet.
They burn his jersey if he loses to the Packers. They had a meaningless game then. I guess.
So ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
The Packers last year did lose on Sunday Night Football against the Lions, where it was a meaningless game for the Lions. But many forget that. Nevertheless, Donnie, the Eagles today play. There is your breakdown of what's going to happen, and there is also what you're demanding out of Philadelphia. Would you like to let the people know?
Yeah, first we'll go with I like the Giants early in the week at the +5.5. Anything over a field goal I think makes some sense. The Giants can actually beat the Eagles straight up the way they're playing right now, but that's not even the point of the conversation today. We talk about Sean McVay, like you brought him up already. I love what the Rams are doing today. Hey, look, we can't improve our seeding. We can only lose one spot here. Two teams are going to play. They're going to go full tilt today, full gas. I got a chance to get a bye week. That's my advantage. You hear me talk about it so many times on these shows. The biggest advantage in the Pro Football League is when you're lining up with a rest advantage against another opponent, and you can actually already be self-scouting them the week before, knowing you're not going to put a game plan together today. That's where the Eagles sit. They're a bad football team right now on defense. Yes, would you like to see them get corrected? But this whole notion of, boy, it would be nice to get the vibes back if the Eagles beat the Giants in the final game of the season. That's the springboard heading into the Super Bowl. That's not the case here. So if I'm Nick Sirianni and you want them to have a good practice week and be focused, that's fine. If you want to play them for a series or two, that's fine as well. But if this is one of those football games that turns into the Dallas Cowboys are up 14 points at the break, but I didn't care about that. I was worried about winning this football game because we're football players. We're paid to play football. I don't buy that one bit here. The Eagles can make a major mistake by playing this game all the way through if the Dallas Cowboys are winning by a wide margin here. That's what I'm looking for today. But having said that, again, I like the Giants. I like the points in the Giants today.
I get it. No, I get it. I'll tell you this right now. Mariota, minimal duty, but it's not obviously, look like any type of world beater here. As someone who's on the over, I hope he can come in and do
a solid backup. Yeah, like if Mariota comes in, he's going to be serviceable. So the total, I think, makes some sense. But if I'm just looking at this game optimistically from an Eagles fan, whether they win or lose is insignificant. And also, they could be up a touchdown at the break, and they go, hey, all the starters are now out now. And the Giants won't do that. They'll play right to the end.
I know we're supposed to get to the meaningless games, but I want to do Jags. Titans. Warren did a great job breaking that down with the Sharp Report, but I want to make sure that we kind of are able to talk through this game. Preseason Texans, let's go Titans. I was considering the hedge. I kept telling people I was going to, but I don't like the Jags in this game, and they're too expensive for me to hedge with that not being the case. If I thought that this was a great spot for Jacksonville, I would be on them. I don't think it is. I think that this is a one last hurrah for an era of Tennessee football, and it is not an all-time legacy run, but Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Mike Vrabel all had a lot of success in Tennessee, which included going to the playoffs and playing in an AFC championship game, and I believe at one point being the number 1 overall seed in this conference. That is all true, and you can't take that away from them. And I think the fact that Tannehill's going over Will Levis is a massive, massive boost. The fact that we all know that this is to be Derrick Henry's last game is a boost. And you know what I like even more? The idea that Vrabel and up top are not seeing eye to eye, and this is very well going to be his last game. We all remember last year, Lovie Smith and the not screwing but kind of screwing the Texans out of the first overall pick and the way that all played out. So for me, I really believe Tennessee can get the job done here in this game today.
Well, I disagree. I really like Jacksonville in this ball game.
But why?
Yeah.
What's the main point, though?
Well, I'll break it down. They need the game. That's why. That's it. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'll just say this. I've heard this all week about Mike Vrabel, and let me just say, I'm not Gentry, okay? He wants to call out the reporter, hey, Gentry, it sucks to lose. Guess what? You suck. He sucked this year. He is absolutely sucked this year, okay? He is not a good head coach since they had double-digit wins. They have 7 and 5 over the last couple of years. They're a completely one-dimensional offense. He has no quarterback. He hasn't developed the quarterback from the coaching perspective. They drafted Malik Willis. He doesn't even play. They draft Will Levis. He's not that great of a quarterback. There's backup quarterbacks that are playing at an elite level. Jake Browning, better than Will Levis right now. C.J. Stroud. So I don't want to hear how great Mike Vrabel is as a head coach. The mentality that they had when they were the number 1 overall seed, when they played Joe Burrow in Cincinnati that year, 3 years ago, he had 3 defensive linemen that had 8+ sacks. They don't stop the run. Their secondary gets abused. I'm tired of it. This is a team in Jacksonville that is battle-tested, back-to-back road games against Cleveland and Tampa Bay. They lost, but overall they have 5 wins this year on the road or on a neutral field. They need the game. They got back to basics with the rushing attack. I think they run it at will. I like the over here because I do feel both of these teams can move the football. 34-14 last time. I think it's all Jacksonville today.
Maybe even to get a little bit better bump here for you, Joe, because most of the reports coming out there for the Jacksonville Jaguars that Trevor Lawrence looks like he's going through his normal practice routine and doesn't look like he's hobbled at all and throwing passes all over the place. So it looks like you might get that bump here for him. But I agree with you on that. And again, the whole essence of, hey, maybe if Vrabel's out, the team will play harder. They're mercenaries in the NFL, man. Like, hey, coach, love you. You know what happens after kickoff? You ever played a sport before? Man, we want to kill this team. We're so focused. You run down a kickoff, you're already out of breath going, okay, now I got a football game to play. Yeah. I'm going to play for my head coach harder now than I was going to play anyway. I don't see that as the case, but I do agree. Jacksonville should win this game. If we get a somewhat healthy Trevor Lawrence, they should win going away for me, to be honest, because the question mark was coming in, is Trevor Lawrence going to be hobbled or are we going with the backup quarterback? If I get Trevor Lawrence at 75%, they win by a touchdown in this game.
I really struggle to see. So they've lost 3. No, hold on.
This is going to drive them nuts
It's
tonight.
not going to drive me crazy. The Titans have lost 3 games at home this year.
Mm-hmm.
Overtime by a field goal against the Colts, overtime by a field goal against the Texans, and then last week by a field goal against Seattle.
And now they're getting 4.5.
And
that's
official.
That to me, that screams Jacksonville. That's the way I look at that line. That line, everybody's going to be running to the window to grab the 4.5. They grabbed it against Seattle. It was a push, right? All Vrabel does. This is all I've heard all week. All Vrabel does, and Tennessee is as a dog they step up. I think you know what? I'm willing to alt it.
I don't know. It says 51% of the spread bets here on Jacksonville.
Even better. I like
it's not even better. That goes exactly against what you just said.
No, 51% of the spread bets on Jacksonville, that's almost even. That's almost even.
Just tell me everyone's betting the Titans.
No, but they are. For a favorite on the road to have around 51, 52%, that's a great. That to me, that screams favorite. When you get 60, 70% on the favorite on the road, that's where you take the dog.
Again, and so be it there. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags have been playing awful football. And the Tennessee Titans have one last stand here. I think they can get the job done. We shall see.
Quick news, Taylor Heineke inactive for the Falcons today. Desmond Ridder starting against the Saints.
He had a breakout game last time they played him.
Yeah, I think that's honestly. I haven't found. I know everyone was hoping Heineke was going to be the savior for that team. I don't think.
If he's hobbled, you can't play him.
I don't think it moves any. But even if Heineke was healthy,
Bijan today,
it doesn't move the.
You like Bijan more in the receiving game?
You wait till week 18 to use him. I love it. That's the strategy.
I mean, he did well out carry Algier last week, Bijan Robinson, but I'm not. The Falcons are not a team that I enjoy betting on props anymore. With what they've done with Bijan, there's just certain spots where a team doesn't deserve your trust, and Atlanta's one of them when it comes to the props market there. Because Bijan Robinson should be a 20-carry guy in a game like this today, where the Saints have been slipping in their run defense. And then you pick your head up and it goes, oh, wow, 12 to Bijan and 11 to Tyler Algier. All right. So at that point, you got to bet the longest rush prop or something because you're not getting home without him breaking a big one.
True.
Yeah, he had a big game in terms of the receiving game. That's the one that Donnie called out in terms of he had the
7 catches for 50 yards.
He had the 35-yard touchdown, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but by the way, you can run the football against New Orleans, so Desmond Ridder, if he makes some plays with his legs, can open some things up. But if you're looking at, again, strength of arm, like Ridder's got the arm. He's got to throw it out there, man.
We'll hit these more in the whip around, but I'm going to group them together. You tell me what you're most interested in. I'll go to you first, Donnie. Jets, Pats, Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers, and Browns, Bengals. These games really do not move the needle anywhere today.
Flip the coin.
But any one side stand out from that group of 4 games?
No, it doesn't, to be honest.
New England. I mean, if this is Belichick's last game, he is not losing to the New York Jets 15. I don't care if there's snow. I don't care if it's an earthquake. They're not losing that game to the Jets.
To me, this should be a Robert Saleh Super Bowl.
Yes.
Robert Saleh should say, I'm not letting you take one more off of us here the other way. It doesn't
I
mean
got
he's
you
successful.
fired in New England. I beat you. That's what Robert Saleh can say here.
Because they're never going to get a chance at him again as the New England head coach.
He's a terrible head coach.
But again, it would also be very Jets to beat the Pats. We sent him out on a loss, and then the Pats fans go, couldn't care less. We just now have the 4th pick and are going to draft Drake May. Like, it would be very Jets to win this game, in my opinion, where it actually is not good for them at all. That's kind of how I feel. But something you and I agree on today is Browns plus 7.5.
Yes, we talked about it yesterday. Good teams with backups that are overextended. We talk about it, 7.5 for the Cleveland Browns. I still think from a defensive perspective, they could turn over Jake Browning. They're only giving up 165 passing yards in the back end. Even though Jeff Driscoll hasn't played, he can move the football. When he gets in there, he can be like Gardner Minshew potentially. So they didn't tack a number on him, but give me Cleveland. Even if they lose this game, 3 points, 4 points, what are you going to get out of Cincinnati in a meaningless home game?
Well, and that's the thing. Cincinnati's defense is very poor, right? 3 straight weeks of 24-plus. You can say, but last week was the Chiefs. They allowed 25 with them kicking 100 field goals in that game. But more importantly, the other games were Nick Mullins and Mason Rudolph. So we've seen backup quarterbacks have success against this team. And if there's going to be a lot of running in this game, which is, I think, reasonable here, it's hard to cover a 7.5-point line. Realistically, people say the Browns don't care. Cincinnati should want to lose this game. Warren Sharp is up next.
Got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active, and let's get the best of the numbers here. So
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, they can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
That tells you how good this league is. Jeff, you're mine. Big 12. Who's the team to beat?
Well, it's always Kansas. I don't care who comes in the league. And I love Kelvin Sampson, what he's done at Houston. I don't care. So Marquette, to me, is the best backcourt in the country. Tyler Kolek's the best point guard. Cam Jones is an elite scorer who just plays with such a good pace, and he's so smart.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on Sports Grid. It's Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. It is a Sunday morning here in Atlantic City. We are joined by Warren Sharp, who is also working the double with us. We will talk to him later tonight, which is why I'm going to skip Dolphins-Bills here, and we will handle that. It's 7:40 later on, so we will see you all there. Warren, that to a big ball game in Carolina, where the Panthers are trying to spoil the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' hopes to winning the NFC South once again. What do you see in this game?
Yeah, this game's going to be tricky because we still don't really know what Carolina is. I mean, this team, they're dealing with, I think Eddie Pinheiro obviously is out again this game. I don't know if they have confidence in a kicker who's going to be able to kick for them. When they even get down into the red zone, are they going to be just going for it? And, you know, we saw them last week. They drove one long drive to start the game down to the 44, turned it over on downs, and then had 6 straight 3-and-outs. 6 straight 3-and-outs. I mean, I just don't know what to get out of this Carolina offense. I know that that's the side that's been taking some of the money from some of the pros earlier this week. I just can't get behind it. I'm not on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I'm basically on the sidelines for this game entirely, but I don't really have a strong opinion. I just know that Carolina, without a kicker and with kind of what is their exact motivation here with coaches that aren't even going to be coaching them next season, it's a tough position here in the final week of the season.
Warren, take a look at a game here in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions in the playoffs here, won the division. We'll have at least one home game here as it plays out. The Minnesota Vikings need a lot of help to get in, but there are some interesting matchups in this game, particularly how long is Detroit going to play their starters, but also Justin Jefferson trying to maybe fight for 1,000 yards, Nick Mullins getting the start. Did you take a look at this game at all, maybe from a prop perspective or a total perspective here?
I did. You know, just in general, as we were talking about games today, I will say disappointed in the bookmakers pretty much across the board this week. Not a lot of props have come out thus far. Scrambling to get some of the lines up this morning for a few of the props. Just not a great slate of action. And so I'm not going to try to force too much on the card today. I do have a couple that I like, but nothing in this particular game. What I did play here was over 12.5 first half points for the Detroit Lions. Everything that Dan Campbell has said tells me that they're looking to come out this game, come out strong. Their offensive linemen are playing. There were some guys that popped up on the injury report earlier this week that they could have rested in this game. They don't know if they're going to be able to get the 2 seed. It's probably extremely unlikely, right? Because they need both the Eagles and the Cowboys to lose, which is probably not happening. That being said, it looks like they're going to come out and try to play to win this game, at least at the start of it. I think they'll be able to get over this total. The last 2 games, though they've played in domes, they have not played at home. And I do think coming home and playing that home game, they're going to be at home next week again in the playoffs. I think it's a big deal for them. I think they need to get started off quickly here. I took them over 12.5 points in the first half. If the number's at 13, I like 13. 13.5, I'm probably a little bit less likely to want to jump in with it. But that's the angle that I was pursuing here.
Warren, must-win ball game in New Orleans. Alvin Kamara out. Now we hear that Desmond Ridder will get the start for Atlanta. How do you expect both of these offenses to attack later today?
I don't know what we're going to get out of the Falcons offense because there is a way to attack the Saints defense. You're probably going to be running a lot of Bijan Robinson is my guess, and that's something that would coincide with like what Arthur Smith should be looking to do in this spot. I really do think that this game could have like repercussions down their stretch for Arthur Smith. So they need to come out here and have a good effort to try to win this game. On the other side, without Kamara up there, that's one element that you can attack the Falcons. They're better against the run. They're weaker against running back passes. Now Kamara's out. Now some of your running back rushing attempts are probably going to be with Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams. Probably not going to be quite as punchy or explosive on the ground there. You're going to require more out of Derek Carr. The one thing that I do know is Dennis Allen in these rematch games, same season rematch games, he's gone under the total in 11 of 14 of them. Since 2019, he's been the defensive coordinator, obviously, for the Saints prior to becoming head coach. And one of the reasons that they go under the total so much is because he's held opponents under their team total in 13 of those 14 games. And they've scored 18 or fewer points in total, the opponents. in all of those games, except for one where they scored 20 points. So we have Dennis Allen, who's a really good defensive coach in these rematch games, going up against Arthur Smith, who's 0-2 straight up in ATS in rematch games from the same season so far this year. I do think there are factors that point towards the Saints, but I'm certainly not having confidence in Derek Carr to lay this number. I do know some sharp guys came in and bet the Saints earlier this week. The Falcons earlier this week. But I didn't join that party. I've got some futures where I'm going to be just pulling for the Falcons to win this game. However, I do like the under a little bit. The full game under took a hit earlier today. First half is still sitting at 20.5. That could be a look as well.
Warren, Packers-Bears is one of the most important games on this slate where the Packers need it, and they are winning in, can get as high as the 6. Their opponent, who technically doesn't need it, feels like they're playing for just as much. The future of Justin Fields, it seems as Matt Eberflus's future is secure. It is just a field goal line in Lambeau. What do you see here?
Yeah, the way that the Packers have been playing defense of late is terrible, and Joe Barry has been terrible. And so for those reasons, it gives hope for the Chicago Bears. The only concern that I have related to the Chicago Bears is simply the fact that Joe Barry, when they played the Packers earlier this year, played a ton of zone. They, in fact, did not play a single snap of man coverage on any passing drop back for Justin Fields. So they're playing zone, and they're not really sending a lot of pressure. And that's exactly the formula to cause problems for Justin Fields. Force him to stay in the pocket, read out defense, don't send a lot of pressure against him, because when he's pressured, he can use his legs and gain big chunks of yardage on the ground. And so for those reasons, I have my concerns about the upside of the Chicago Bears offense. But all things being considered, I did lean a little bit towards the over in this game, simply because I think the Green Bay Packers are going to have that dial turned to full go. A lot of their wide receivers are looking good for this game. They're going to be getting guys back like Luke Musgrave as well at tight end, I believe. And so they're going to be a little bit stronger here offensively at the receiver position. And it looked like the Chicago Bears were dealing with some losses in the secondary as well. And you put those two things together, you got a potential Justin Fields chasing from behind, going to be a little bit more aggressive with the football, going to be playing for basically just to cement an opportunity to stay in Chicago. I think all of these things bode well for points, plus the number one biggest factor at this time during the winter in Lambeau is that the weather looks perfect. The weather looks great for this game. There's going to be no wind at all. So for those reasons, I think the over is in play.
Warren, another game here that we're taking a look at where the weather is not going to be in play. That's out in the Dome in Arizona. That's going to be the Seattle Seahawks fighting for a playoff spot against the Arizona Cardinals, who were dead to rights but beat the Philadelphia Eagles and hung over 30-plus points on them last week. Can you take a look at us with us, the Seahawks and the matchup with the Cardinals? Is it wide receiver? Is it running back? And do we see points in this game as well?
This is one where I struggle to find a definitive edge to go. We know that the Seattle Seahawks need to win this game. We know that the Arizona Cardinals are obviously playing for nothing. Would it behoove the Cardinals to lose this game for draft pick perspective? Yes, it would. But they played hard last week and absolutely dominated the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. I do wonder if there's any type of letdown whatsoever coming back home, playing in a game where you aren't really playing for anything, and Jonathan Gannon just defeated his former team, the team that moved on from him in the offseason a couple of years ago. I think that game was very meaningful for him, and therefore the players buy into that as well. Can they get up for another meaningless game here against a team that really needs it? I didn't see a whole lot of edges, side or total, nor did I play any props in this one. As of right now, I have no action in this game, and it's certainly not going to be a game that I'm really tuned in to see what happens. But if anything does pop later, I'll be looking to get involved. But right now, nothing.
I'll give you the ugly game, Warren, the game in Foxborough between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. New England has won 15 straight, a total of 29.5. There's going to be snow, rain, sleet. Are you playing anything, or is there any value in this ball game?
I'm playing nothing in that game. The value, I guess, from the betting perspective was to take the under, presuming that we're not going to see any points here whatsoever. I did find interesting that Mac Jones was made inactive for this game, or at least moved to the third-string quarterback emergency QB status, I believe, something along those lines. So he's not even the number 2 guy up for this one. I don't have any thoughts on this game. I think this is a game, all the narrative street is about Bill Belichick coming out, beating a team he's owned for years, and in what could be his swan song there in Foxborough. So I'm not looking to necessarily play against that. And in a normal week, I would be looking to tease the New York Jets with a total of 29 and a 2-point team, moving them up to +8. It's a great week to do that from a line perspective, but it's just hard to get the true grasp on all motivation factors in all the games this week and good teams to be put into those situations. And as a result, I just didn't find a partner that I would want to pair that leg with. So I'm on the sidelines for this one as well.
Warren, as far as Dallas and Washington goes, total 46.5. The Cowboys are huge favorites in this game where they are winning in. I feel like there's an understanding that this number is a bit overinflated. I find Washington hard to trust, though. We've heard Ron Rivera will be fired at the end of this game. Any value for you here?
Well, the value's in Washington, but they are just down so many guys, and they announced a couple of other guys. I haven't checked their inactives. Those popped right before we got on to see if those defensive players that are presumed to be out, like Jonathan Allen, etc., are indeed out for this one. But we already knew that their defense was a shell, and they're even worse right now. The one prop that I might be looking to get involved with here would be like a Tony Pollard over, because I think Dallas Cowboys are going to have to come out and get a little bit accomplished on the ground. They need to win this game, and that means you have to play your starters for as long as it takes to ensure that you're going to win this game. So you're going to obviously be playing everybody that you got, all hands on deck to start. At the end, sure, you may give up some points to the other team, but you can't just, continue to punt the ball back to the other team in terms of the Commanders and just do nothing and risk a outright loss at the end. So I would expect Pollard to be in there for as long as it takes and maybe go over his yardage total.
All right, great stuff there. We will once again talk to Warren Sharp tonight. You might be saying, where's the Bills-Dolphins? We will do that tonight with Warren right here on SportsGrid. Warren, we appreciate it. Best of luck with the landmines that are the 1-4s today.
Thanks, guys. Darius Slayton, longest reception, over 20.5. Bring it back one more time for us.
There we go. One more. Now, where's the Steve Slayton prop there? We got to look into it. Warren, have a great one. We are coming up here, though. We will put the odds in motion for you. A lot of wild line movement in Detroit.
Never seen anything like this.
Unprecedented. Where is this thing going? Up from 3.5 to 4. I don't want to spoil it. So I'll let you handle that next right here on SportsGrid.
New sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
My best bet is Michael Penix Jr. over 309.5. Let's shop around. Let's get active, and let's get the best of the number here, Joe.
I believe if Michigan in this ball game can run the football, work off of play action, They can move the football, put up points. Does fall on McCarthy, but I like Michigan's chances in this ball game.
National championship is set. Washington against Michigan.
Brothers in arms tonight. This is it.
This is the most excited I think I've ever been for a day of work in my entire life.
That tells you how good this league is. Jeff, your mind. Big 12. Who's the team to beat?
Well, it's always Kansas. I don't care who comes in the league. And I love Kelvin Sampson, what he's done at Houston. I don't care. So Marquette, to me, is the best backcourt in the country. Tyler Kolek's the best point guard. Cam Jones is an elite scorer who just plays with such a good pace, and he's so smart.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today live from the Oceans Resort in Atlantic City. And we're going to close down hour number 2, certainly in style. Hour number 3 coming up here. A lot of good guests, a lot of good picks. Let's make some money and have some fun in week number 18 of the NFL slate. But before we do that, do you know where you can find all this information at? Maybe you're traveling around, you can't catch us live on the network. The SportsGrid app is the best place to get all of your information needs, particularly for games like week 18. You better know exactly who's playing, who's in and out, and also those odds markets will be shifting here. Get all that information on the app that you need, and that's with us right here at the SportsGrid Network. Odds in motion this week, there are a lot of games here. You're taking a look at quarterbacks that are in and out, teams that are playing for playoff positioning, teams that are playing to go to Aruba by Tuesday morning. The game we're going to take a look at here, there's a lot left to be decided, and that is between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Nick Mullins will be your quarterback today for those Vikings going up against Jared Goff. The interesting part in this game overall, though, is who actually needs what. Minnesota needs a lot of help. Detroit's already in the playoffs and probably most likely going to be that number 3 seed, which had a lot of play here this week when checking out these lines. If we were looking and knew that the Lions had a legitimate chance to get that 2 seed or even number 1 seed, you were looking at that 5.5 price for the opening number. Now, as we sit across the board, we're looking at 3.5, and rightfully so. We think we're going to get a great effort out of both of these teams. If you take a look at the Minnesota Vikings, they are down a couple offensive linemen, which isn't a good sign, particularly going on the road. But even if we're taking a look at the points in this game from a total perspective, how about this? Opening number, 44. Now we sit at 47.5 because we're expecting some yards. Why? Nick Mullins inserted in as quarterback here. It should be a lot of fun to watch this overall because why? 118 yards away from a 1,000-yard season. You know who that is? Yes. Superstar wide receiver Justin Jefferson. So we're expecting some points tonight and some yards in this ball game. The question is going to be is, again, the odds market jumping around. Why? We don't know how long the Detroit Lions are actually going to play their starters in this game. Do they pull them early? Do they play it all the way through? Do they want momentum for the playoffs? A lot of that is going to be determined today. But the one thing I do know, Justin Jefferson should have a big game. Hour number 3 coming up from the Oceans Resort in Atlantic City. It's Pro Football Today, and we will be right back.
It's smarter to be on sports.